So I'll tell you. I mean, you already read it. So I guess you could do overview, but it's a rule among these better than Jordan Peterson rules, right, or principles, and it's Jordan Peterson in his second 12 rule book. It has a rule that says don't do what you hate, and it's a rule that has to do with well, not being part of the woke hysteria, right, or similar things. That if there are these things that pressure you at work, your organization, where you sort of resent yourself for tagging along with certain pressures, just because you don't want to get in trouble, and try and stand up for yourself, and maybe just leave the company and complain, or just don't comply and stuff like that, right? I guess there can be some wisdom to that. I mean, it depends. If it's according to your values, and you maybe need to challenge some of your ideas, fine. But if you really feel that's not good, then just sure, better to stand up for yourself, right? Or else, years down the line, you've been doing stuff you don't even like or know what you're doing, right? This rule here turns that on its head, but just on a surface level, it says do what you hate, right? That's the name of the rule. And do what you hate in what context? Well, in the therapeutic context, particularly. I mean, it translates to other parts of life, sure. But doing what you hate is, I mean, it has a very simple argumentation at its core. It's that, okay, when you pick your profession, you do this ikigai thing, right? You do, okay, I have to pay the bills. I have to be really good at it. I also have to love doing it, and it has to be something the world needs. Hopefully that last one too, right? And then you try to hit the sweet spot between those four things. And if you do that, voila, you're going to blossom professionally, most likely, right? You're going to do what you love and what you're really good at, because that's your profession, right? So let's say you want to be therapists. And which sort of therapist are going to be? So if you're really good at rational branching off into clearer and clearer views of an issue and breaking down into its part, and then rearranging those parts, and you can do that live, and because you have high IQ and so forth, you're going to be good cognitive behavioral therapists. So you should be a cognitive behavioral therapist. Now, if you're really good at intuitively feeling through a human body and noticing where there is tension, noticing where a person perhaps tenses up very, very, very intuitively, very, 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 I mean, subtly, where a person tenses up more when they speak about something particular, one thing or another, and maybe seeing patterns across many people there, you're going to be a good somatic Rosen therapist, for instance. So you ask people questions, you'll feel them up, you'll notice, well, wait a minute, why are you so tense here? Because you've been holding back something you need to say, right? Why are you so tense here? Maybe you're not allowing yourself to feel something, right? Why are you tense back here? Well, you're not feeling entirely safe, Mike. So a little bit on the defensive. What are you defensive about, right? And eventually you can bring these things out, and make the body open up. New thoughts come up, new feelings come up. Okay, very, very, very different things, very different people. Now, if you're going to therapy, if you're the client, what are you going to do? What are you going to do? Well, we know what most people do, right? So the people who is more like the cognitive behavioral therapist is going to say, wow, well, this sort of therapy makes a lot of sense to me. This sort of therapist I can respect, and I can see that they're skilled, right? And the smart person who's like the cognitive therapist, then they go to the Rosen therapist, the somatic therapist, for instance, and it's touchy, feel, intuitive, and they're like, okay, you're full of shit. Yeah, you're full of shit, and they kind of leave, right? And the other way around too, right? This deeply embodied, emotional, spiritual, breathing person, and then they have something bothering them, and their finances aren't working. They go to a cognitive behavioral therapist. They're like, "Wow, you are one shallow human being, and I feel sorry for you. Best of luck to you and whoever you think you might help with your bullshit, but goodbye," right? Now, that's what happens. And the touchy-feely person ends up with a somatic, emotionally sensitive therapist, and the cognitive in his head person goes to the cognitive behavioral therapist, of course. Fine. To begin with, they actually have better results because they get better rapport, which is crucial for good therapy. Sure. Now, what do you think a normal person who's too much in their head is usually bad at? Now, they're going to be bad at feeling and intuitively sensing what's going on in their body. They were already good at thinking and breaking things down. That's why they like the behavioral therapist, right? What do you think their problem is going to be? It's not going to be that they're not good enough at something they're already good at. I mean, when you need therapy, it's because it's your weak spot, it's your Achilles heel, it's your wound, it's what you're really, really, really bad at, right? Otherwise, like, if you're really good at something, you're the best boxer, then you go to like the super elite trainer of boxers, right? But you're maybe the worst at figure skating, then you're going to have to go to somebody who just trains you at the very, very basics of figure skating. However, let's say there's a sport where you need to figure skate and box to be successful, right? Yeah. Figure skate boxing, ice boxing, we can call it ice boxing, because life is full of those combinations, right? Of those combinatoric situations where one skill set can hold you back from actually using your talent or from thriving or being happy, right? Well, so if you want to be, this boxer does not need an even better boxer coach to train them boxing. They need to learn to skate, right? Because they can't stand on 2 feet on skates, right? So you're gonna have to go to the therapist that does the stuff you hate, because you hate doing the stuff you're really bad at, and the stuff you're really bad at is the stuff that's holding you back and that's hurting you, and that's why you need therapy, right? So that's the very simple argument at the core of this chapter. There's more you can unpack there, that you might be stuck in a pattern of avoiding doing the very thing you need to be doing. So you meditate and you meditate and you meditate, and you just need to go one time to a Gabor Mate inspired trauma therapist, and they're like, so you're seriously not sad that your dad left? No, not really, no. So, and you're noticing all those things, and they like poke you a little bit, and you break down and cry in the puddle, right? And he's like, okay, you were sad. You've been so sad about this. You wouldn't even allow yourself to feel it for 30 years, right? Whereas other people work through their therapists, through the traumas, years and years and years, and they just go round and round and round and round, and their finances still suck, and they're still super, super duper stressed all the time. Well, it's because you have really, really, really bad habits. And they're like, no, that's too shallow. It's about something deep, something profound, something about the beauty of my soul that doesn't manifest. No, it's not. You spent money you didn't have, you dumb fuck. And you need to think through what you're doing in your everyday habits, right? And you can't buy expensive courses with your last money and buy Bitcoin for them, right? Because it's gonna hurt you. And you need to go to a therapist that helps you retrain your mind to think commonsensically about things you're thinking nonsensically about, or to a finance coach or whatever, right? So there are these different levels or layers, and you're gonna be more aware of certain layers within yourself, from the spiritual to, let's say, the psychotic. But within those layers, you can go, to basic Freudian stuff, or then you can go, or you could look at, the Ericksonian life phases. Like, first you really needed just the safety of your mom and dad, then you needed successful potty training, then you needed to have a good first and an identity, and separation of your own from your parents, terrible twos and all that. Then you needed to have a first friend when you're 5 or 6 or 7. And you needed to transition successfully to that. A lot of kids didn't have that. And then you needed to have an identity as a teenager and be seen as a sexual being. And then you needed a professional identity as an adult. And then you needed some success in that. Okay. And then you need, maybe later on, you might need, to deal with difficult stuff you need to accept in life, right? And grow wisdom rather than resentment. So at one of these rungs, or several, you're going to have your issues. And different therapies are designed for those different issues, right? Yeah, that's basically it. And people always go to the wrong ones. Or they just go randomly to a therapist, and the therapist just happens to be, let's say, a cognitive behavioral therapist, a psychodynamic one, a logotherapist, existential therapy, or whatever else it might be out there. And you just get all of their assumptions about what's wrong with you. And guess if they're biased. They're really biased. If our doctors work like that, we would never go to them. I break a leg and they send me to an oncologist and give me chemotherapy, that's awful. Luckily, psychotherapy is a little less invasive, but nevertheless, that's almost the state that our therapeutic landscape is in. It's just a lottery if you end up with the right therapist, right? So basically, do what you hate, and that is a good heuristic for hitting the right spot, right? Where you're not comfortable, but where it's most fruitful to you.
Yeah, I think this is a good lens. I'm always thinking about this question of how do you find the right therapist? This is definitely an interesting lens and something that I want to talk about with my colleagues and see what other therapists think about. This is something that I'm exploring. So very interesting.